who are our best and our worst customers? And by worst, I mean least profitable, because it's amazing how many companies do not really know the answer to that. And
Wow.
they're spending as much time and effort and money on the customers that are maybe not even, maybe losing, right? Losing money as they are with the ones that are most profitable.
Welcome to the Rozy Effect Show, where I give you the keys to lead digital transformation. I'm your host, Rozy Amponsa. Today's guest is a founder and president of Tech Edge Consulting, a women-owned business enterprise certified in New York State and City. Tech Edge provides consulting services helping clients with business growth, digital transformation, sales, and marketing. She was previously vice president, CMO, and an owner of LPA Software Solutions, a 50-person boutique services firm focused on data analytics and artificial intelligence. Under her leadership, she helped to transform the company to be a nationally recognized data analytics and business intelligence firm. She led LPA efforts to win the IBM Beacon Finalist Award, launch a new brand, and deploy a technology strategy to help grow the client by 300%. During her 33 years at IBM Corporation, she worked with IBM CEO and many C-suite executives, assisting them with digital transformation. She was a sales executive, cloud executive, and engineering manager. She received many distinguished sales awards and was responsible for some of IBM's largest sales and services projects, with clients including General Electric, ABB, Xerox, and the New York State government. She's a licensed professional engineer. She completed the Executive MBA program at Harvard Business School, received her engineering degree from Clarkson University, and completed graduate studies at Columbia University and Union College. Watching her, you get the feeling that this mother of two is just getting started. Let's welcome Betty Wall. All right, Betty, how are you?
I'm doing great, Rosie. How are you? It's great to see you.
It is always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much, and welcome to the Rozy Effect.
Thank you. This is exciting. I'm happy to be with you, Rosie.
Oh, I am so excited. And there's so many different reasons why I'm excited, but let's delve right into it, okay? Share with me an
Okay.
unconventional strategy that you have applied that did surprisingly well.
Wow. So I was at IBM for many years as a sales executive. And so our role was to sell servers and computers and computer related services. But we had a client that was a Fortune 100 client, and it was one of the top 5 or 10 in the world making CAT scan machines. And the problem they were really struggling with was going to the next generation of manufacturing to make things smaller, tighter tolerances, smaller measurements. They really needed to leapfrog and get into a new generation. And it was technology that they just did not possess. And it was a real challenge for them to produce more accurate images. Interestingly enough, in our background, building circuits and chips and things for
Yeah.
mainframe computers, we had been building things that were really small and measuring things that were really small, i.e. like not visible at the nanoscale for years. We had patents that they didn't even know we existed. So when we started explaining to them how we do this, we put together a technology transfer. We actually sold them this knowledge and helped them apply it to manufacturing CAT scan machines. And they
Wow.
completely jumped over the competition. It was all confidential at the time, but it was written up in many magazines. And it was just a cool combination of two very, very different industries, but applying it to help a problem that they would never have been able to solve on their own. And quite honestly, it wasn't what we were selling, but so creating a customized offering for a customer. And then also along that line, creating hybrid teams that might not exist to solve a customer's problem. So pulling in the right skills, the right people, the right chemistry, the right knowledge across an entire organization or company outside of the organization to address a customer's challenge is really important, and it's not always done, but the customers really appreciate it, and it is truly a win-win because they get a better product, a better offering, and we become a trusted advisor to those
Mhm.
customers. So I think that's kind of cool and kind of unique.
Wow, wow. And this idea of creating something that either doesn't currently exist or taking a piece of something and adding it to something new to benefit the customer, to benefit the end consumer, it makes me think about ways that an organization can define digital transformation to be successful. What does that look like for
Yes.
you?
So, great question. So, in order for the transformation to be successful, that message has to start right at the top of the
Ugh,
organization, the
that's
C-suite. They've got to be totally committed.
yeah.
They've got to communicate the commitment. They have to put funding to the initiative. It has to really, come from the top and stay there. And personalization. So, thinking about offering new products and services to customers.
Mhm.
Personalization can be and should be an outcome of a digital transformation. And the reason is we've all learned to expect personalization. How often do you get a product or a service offered to you and you say, I already get that. Like, why are you reaching out to me? I'm already a customer of yours, or a service which is completely irrelevant to my lifestyle, my family. So we've learned to expect getting offers that are really
Certain
kind of
level.
tailored to us. And the
Yeah.
advantage, one of the many advantages of a transformation like this is personalization, and that is, in my mind, a successful outcome.
Hmm. Hmm. Being able to tailor it down and really define it specific to the end consumer. Wow.
Yes,
Okay.
because that's what we want, that's what we expect, and the even better is offering me a service that I didn't even know I needed that, but that's great.
It
I
solves
didn't
that
even know I
problem.
wanted that. So not only offering me what I need, but anticipating what I need next and then offering that. So
Okay.
I think that is a great goal for a successful outcome of a digital
Digital
transformation.
transformation. So you have leadership on board. That in itself is a leap to be able to achieve. But yes, we've been able to get leadership on board. How then is leadership able to define what success looks like for this digital transformation?
So I'll always come back to the customer, to the client, loyalty.
Hmm.
Are your customers loyal to you? Are they staying with you? Are you growing that customer base? Understanding churn, and by churn, I mean, are your customers leaving? Did you know they were at risk of leaving?
Of
Why did
leadership.
they leave? Are there patterns? Are there patterns in the data to say, why are we losing? How did we lose our best
Hmm.
customer and nobody knew what was going to happen? So I think churn is really something to understand and focus on. And then also the two-way communication that you have. And there are all different ways to look at that two-way communication with social media now.
Hmm.
What are people saying about you on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on your customer reviews? I mean, look at Amazon, how they grew in big part because of what people believed, right? Were unbiased customer reviews. That's changed a little bit now, but
Right,
the
right.
trust in, so that two-way communication is really key in a digital transformation to pay attention to that. And that will start to show whether you're successful or not.
Hmm. Hmm. And you touched on customer. We're going to go a lot into the customer, the people, different aspects of it. So, as a business, how are you looking at customer churn or adding on new customers? It's all impacting revenue, right? It's generating
Yeah.
revenue or reducing costs. What does that look like for a leadership team that takes on this digital transformation sort of strategy?
Yeah, great question. So I call it an analytics mindset.
Mhm.
I ran an analytics business as a partner and an owner, and worked a lot with executives that were on their journey. And I call it an analytics mindset that starts with the top. And it's not just the COO or the CFO, it's the CEO, the COO, it's everybody at the
The whole
top
leadership team.
has to
Yeah.
have the whole
Yeah.
leadership. They have to have that analytics mindset and start by saying, who are our best and our worst customers? And by worst, I mean least profitable, because it's amazing how many companies do not really know the answer to that. And
Wow.
they're spending as much time and effort and money on the customers that are maybe not even, maybe losing, right? Losing money as they are with the ones that are most profitable. So start by saying, who are our best and worst customers? And let's really delve into that. And how do we change that equation? But how do we
Mhm,
really measure where are we making our money and why?
mhm,
And then
mhm,
secondly, demographic. What's the makeup of our current customers, and who are our ideal customers, and who are our target customers? And the insurance industry, for example, is a great is one that I think of often in terms of business models. Insurance industry, fashion industry, and the reason is, so in the insurance industry today, the model has been, I sit down with an insurance agent, I review my life and
yeah.
my goals and my children, and we talk about it, and then a couple weeks later they let me know if I'm approved, and here's the price. And it's all over the course of a lengthy, maybe a month or 2 months, but it's meant to be this kind of lifelong relationship, which is great. Now enter millennials, and this is a gross generalization, but what millennials want to log on, type in a little bit of information about themselves, look at their options, compare companies, understand immediately if they've been approved, buy the contract, and now they're on.
Mhm,
So it's a very different way of buying. So demographics, who are your current and your future customers, and what are you doing to capture those, should be
mhm,
a very, very big part of that digital transformation.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Information is power.
And you're
Information is
talking about
power.
different industries, and I can think right now in telehealth, just all the different industries in finance and banking, and how a different generation really, what matters to them might not necessarily matter to the generation before them, but you still need to be able to define what that outreach looks like, the strategy to get to that customer in order to still be
Exactly.
able to sell, to serve them.
Exactly. And the fashion industry completely disrupted right now. And
Yes.
that's just another great example of that, running 4 fashion shows a year. And now with this, wow, everything is thrown upside down. So a lot
How
of
could,
industries are really, really,
yeah,
thrown upside down.
yeah. I'm pretty excited to see some of the things that are coming out with fashion right now, how we're utilizing different digital platforms to still reach and pull out that emotion to get that customer to see the design and whatnot. So it's quite fascinating.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is an exciting time.
So let's talk a bit about what we're all facing right now. Disruption, right? We're all living it.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
all figuring it out. What this sense of a new normal, okay? How
Yeah.
should an organization, how should business leaders at this point be able to position themselves within their organizations, right, in navigating uncertainty? Because the change that happened at the beginning of this year, no one expected that. Right, but here we are,
No,
and
no,
now
no.
businesses are sort of slowly creating phases in getting back into offices or getting back into business. So how should business leaders position themselves to be able to navigate uncertainty, and then also position themselves to excel moving forward, right?
Yeah, yeah, boy. So if this disruption was going on before COVID-19 and the pandemic, I'll tell you, it has been really, really accelerated. And a lot, like I said, is going to change.
Yes.
Hospitality, education, so many cruise lines,
Oh my
airlines
goodness.
are
Disruption.
really, the disruption has become cataclysmic, right? So,
Absolutely.
so speed to market, if you're not very nimble and tapping into your most creative people, your broad thinkers, speed to market and being nimble right now is going to be incredibly important. And I hate to use the word, but it really gets the point across. Consuming or cannibalizing old lines of business or current successful lines of business takes a lot of
Ooh.
a lot of fortitude, a lot of guts to say, we have this successful line of business, we're making money, it's a cash cow. We can't hire a whole new team. We have to take some of those resources and jump into a new area. And an example, if you look back on some of these disruptions, like Kodak, making a ton of money on film, but
Actual
it came up the
physical.
digital camera, did
Yeah.
not get across the chasm because they couldn't cannibalize that great cash flow line of business, but you have to do it. Kodak, Xerox, even I think about my days at IBM, right? In the mainframe, incredible revenue stream,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
now cloud. So going from
Cloud
client
is a
server
big
and mainframe
transition.
into cloud, where you're getting, it's a utility model with very different payments. But making that jump is really difficult. It takes a lot of guts, but really tapping into your creative people and inspecting how can we be more nimble and how do we sense and respond. There's this concept of sense and respond that's kind of a rapid, let's take the pulse, let's throw it out there and let's see how we're doing. And that, I think, is going to have to be the way people address this disruption right now.
Mm, mm. So in addressing this disruption, you talked about being able to what are those people, right, that are driving that. So how does leadership, right, gain visibility into the current state of their people and the
Yes.
process in order to be successful for this disruption that we've just touched on a bit?
Yeah. So people process, great conversation. So
Mhm,
it sounds very
mhm.
simple, but it's not. Ask,
Yo.
check in. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Do you think we're on the right track? What do you think
Mhm,
about the company? What do you think
mhm.
about the industry? And there's this concept of big ears. Ask and then listen a lot. But it's interesting. There are leaders that just they don't do that check in. They don't do that ask because they're afraid of what they might
Of the
hear.
reality of it. I
They're afraid
mean,
of the reality, or worse, they know they have to make a change, but they don't know how to change the trajectory themselves, and so they
hmm.
don't want to ask. So I would say the first thing is ask. The second thing is I call them the catalysts. They're catalysts in every organization who thrive on change. They love change. They find status quo boring. They are change agents at all levels of the organization that will help you if they're in the boat with you, if they understand what you're trying to do. Even if you don't know the direction, those catalysts for change are the ones that are going to help you succeed as a CEO, CFO.
Mhm,
Reach
mhm.
out to those people and really ask them, hey, I need your help. Let's do this together. So that's on the people side. On the process side, um, take a look at the comments that are coming in from your customers on social media. I mean, again, it's a great digital platform. What are they saying about you? Are you easy to do business with? Did they get the refund in a day instead of in a month? What do they love about your new products? That feedback on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram is
Mhm.
really important to process because you can get a lot of it's like an instant performance plan. Put out a new product. Your customers are going to tell you whether you like it or not, whether it's a great product or
Yeah.
this is a dud. And I'll tell you, social media, right? So the people process is important, and there are a lot of different ways to get at that very, very quickly.
You talk to catalysts within organizations, right? And sometimes leadership doesn't want to see the reality of the state of business. What are some attributes in identifying these catalysts within an organization?
The attributes of the people,
Yes.
um, just people that are always coming up with new ideas, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
bring a different type of energy. They look at problems from a different way. You People know who they are,
Yeah.
and sometimes they're a pain in the back, because they're always thinking of new things, the new ideas,
Mhm.
and sometimes and like they will eventually go away. You don't want them to go away, but they really just thrive on change. They're not
Mm.
risk adverse.
Mhm.
Um, so, really checking in with those people, and they're pretty easy to find, but you
So,
have to show the interest and ask.
they're consistent, right? Not stagnant, wanting change.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right now, we're in organizations where there's a melting pot of generations, right? You touched on that even earlier on how companies, organizations need to figure out how to reach the different generations. In the workplace, though, how should leaders be able to successfully navigate when it comes to delivering education, upscaling its workforce? When you're
Wow.
looking at such different, right,
Yeah.
viewpoints and
Yeah.
things coming together in one workforce.
Sure, sure. So, educating the workforce is a science and an art. We're going to learn a lot more about this coming through the pandemic because look
Mm,
what's happened to education, K through 12,
yeah.
and university education. But I think what we already know is that people learn and absorb information in very different ways, and it can be generational, but it's just the way people are. Some
Yeah.
people learn by watching a YouTube video. Some people learn only by doing. Some people learn by watching somebody else do it, and then they try it. Some really thrive on just give me a test, give me a lot of information to read,
Hmm.
test me so I know if I absorbed it in a non-punitive way. And if I miss 2 out of 10, let me go back, let me learn it, let me take the test again. So there are a lot of different ways that people learn, and at different rates as well. And the other thing I think is very, very important is to, again, I go back to these hybrid teams, and I call them left brain, right brain teams. But and I'll give you an example because it demonstrates this the best. I was working with in my consulting practice. I was working with an executive who was managing one of the largest data science teams that I've ever experienced. He was managing about 300 data scientists,
Oh,
which
wow.
is a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time when there weren't that many in the country. So, and what he said to me was, do you know, the best solutions that I come up with my team are not the ones that are the all statisticians, quants, algorithm people, modelers. They're the ones that are left brain, right brain teams because they have people who have backgrounds in music and art, in English, in sociology. And when I put those people together, wow, they come up with really different
Hmm.
introspective
Hmm.
insights, and they
Hmm.
solve problems in a very different way. So I think putting together successful left brain, right brain teams is very important, to get to that creative element of what have we not done that we need to do in the future.
Hmm. 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 And this really also speaks to, individuals gaining training and really upskilling themselves, right?
Sure.
Someone might think I don't come with a technical background, therefore I don't belong or don't have the capacity. But clearly, coming with that skill set, there's value add there in being able to deliver the right solution to the customer. So when we look
Right,
at
right,
impact
right.
of the digital business on human capital, right? What
Hmm.
is the reality of that? Because at the end of the day, if an organization is implementing a solution, we're improving business, right? We're upskilling our people. It's gonna come at some level of impact, whether it's layoffs, whether it's HR skills, whether it's promotions. What does that look like? What is the impact to the business when such an
Yeah.
implementation happens?
So it can be, and it usually is a very big impact. Those impacts on HR, those are the most important ones. And I go back to the data and say, let us look at the information that we have about ourselves and
Mhm.
about our customers and about the products that we need. Where are the gaps? Where are the gaps in skills and capabilities today, and where do we think they're going to be in the future? So really mine that information to say first, where are the gaps? And then it has to be communicated to the people because a lot of learning in HR, it comes down to desire, attitude, intelligence,
Yeah,
confidence.
yeah.
And so communicating to the teams, hey, this is where we are. This is what we've always done. It's worked in the past, but guess what? To get to the future, we've got to be here. And this is the way we have to all come on board
Mhm, mhm,
and learn, and we're going to help you be successful
mhm.
to do that. But churn, I mentioned churn with customers
Yeah.
before. Look at the churn of employees, and predictive analytics is actually being used very successfully in this way, but trying to understand, am I losing my best employees and why? Is there a pattern in the data? Are they leaving after X number of years? People always go to money, and that's usually a factor, but a really small factor. Where are
Mhm,
they going and why? Are my
mhm.
best people helping me recruit new people? Are the teams helping each other get ahead, or is it kind of like the crab bucket where people are really sabotaging one another? So those HR elements and uplifting everybody, upscaling everybody, with the communication that we're going to help you succeed,
Mhm.
and this is where we need to go, and this is why. So I think there are a lot of messages, I think, in there to the answer to your question, but they're all very, very important
Mhm.
to look at.
Yeah, yeah. Man, still on people because people is so vital when we look at digital transformation. Let's look a bit at diversity, right? What does
Uh,
that mean to you? And what is the value of diversity in digital transformation? It's almost like leadership can forget about it and the impacts of the end consumer you're serving, being able to reflect that. So yes, let's talk about diversity.
yeah, so I could talk about this one for literally for hours because that's how important this is.
Yeah.
This is one of the most important things I think that we will talk about because
Mm.
the world and the customer set is
That you're serving.
unbelievably diverse that you're serving. And oh, by the way, if your customer set isn't diverse, take a real good look at why, because your business is going to be
E-
shrinking pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
So really looking at the diversity of your customer set, and is it reflected in your organization? Is it
Ooh.
reflected in your executive team?
Let me-
All the way down. And if it's not, I remember one. I remember a deal where we were competing against a lot of other companies, and one company went in with a great solution, but at the end of the day, the customer during the orals said, "You do not reflect our organization at
No,
all. I'm
no,
sorry, but
yeah.
we're a very diverse organization. You don't reflect that. So how could you possibly understand?" Kind of the way in which we do business. So that diversity has to be reflected in your messaging, in your brand, in your products. And again, let's go back to the demographic. Who are you
Who are
serving?
you
And if
serving?
it's not a diverse set, um, I think about when my children were, they're older now, but when they were younger, I think about, you remember those Crayola sets of 120 crayons.
Yeah.
If you were to give those to your child and say, Joey, create a masterpiece. I'm going to give
Mhm.
you 120 crayons. Oh, by the way, they're all the same color, but really do your best and create something magnificent. Well, I mean, how interesting and creative and magnificent can it be? I mean, Joey's going to lose interest. We're all going to lose interest because things are going to kind of look the same. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a little simple visual, but it's like the world is very diverse, and that should be what you're bringing forward in order to take
Mhm,
advantage of every person, every
mhm,
talent individual.
mhm,
And it's not just gender or race or religion or whatever sexuality. It's things like um, the person, extrovert, introvert. So it may be that the person who's the quietest person in the meeting every week has the best ideas, but because somebody else loves to talk and dominate, they're not getting it out. So maybe the team meeting isn't the way to pull out those diverse views, but give people a forum and a way to express their ideas and their creativity when maybe you're not hearing all of that right now from a very diverse audience
mhm,
within your organization. So
mhm, mhm,
it's
mhm.
a lot of different things that have to be considered.
Yeah, and especially in our era of digital disruption, the lip service that will used to be that's not it's not gonna cut it anymore. Like
No.
your curtains are gonna open, people can see based
Yeah.
on an error you put out into the marketplace, based on the way you conduct business. So it's so much more easier for people to truly see if you're about the business or if you're just talking. So
Yeah. It's pretty transparent. You're
yeah.
exactly right about that.
Oh
Yeah.
man, let's delve into another thing that's exciting and just
Okay.
connects with people, organizational culture. Because we're
Okay.
talking about transformation, we need to talk about what the culture in the organization looks like. So,
Right.
what
Right.
role would you say that culture plays when we look at digital transformation?
So I'm going to go to the top of the organization again because the culture is really set. That litmus test begins at the top of the organization, and the executive team has to win over the hearts and the minds of the people and set the tone for the culture to
Yeah.
to permeate all the way through. That trust and faith of the individuals has to be generated at the top, and if it's not there, that's going to be a challenge. And for example, a risk adverse culture, if your culture has always been one of do your job, stay in line, we're not really interested in your ideas, just kind of stick with the plan, it's very different now to say, okay, now we need to fail fast. We need to be nimble. We need to be agile. We need to,
Overnight.
so that's not going to happen overnight because people are used to operating the way you have encouraged them to operate.
Mhm.
So shifting from a risk adverse culture into one that's very open, creative, and nimble and failing fast is, again, it comes from the top, but it's something to be aware of. And you've got to have that trust and faith and saying, nope, this is really where we do need to go right now.
And when this transformation or this culture shift is happening, how is it really impacting or shaping the business, or looking at it from the perspective of business transformation, digital transformation? How does it impact that?
Well, I think it impacts it in big ways because those are the people that you're relying on, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you have to have a
Yeah.
successful transformation by saying these are the business goals. They're aligned with employee values, and this is where we're going. We all need to be a part of it, and really understanding the values of your employees that are coming into your organization. I mean, that's a very new world, because younger people coming in right now, it's not just how big's my signing bonus and how much is my paycheck
Yeah.
going to be. It's, what do you stand for? What do you represent? How do you feel about climate change, sustainability, carbon footprint? There are a lot of things. Young people coming out of university today are very aware, and that is, whether you like it or not, that is going to be a part of your culture, is what do you stand for? People, really want to understand that.
Yeah, yeah, and I can absolutely relate and speak to that. Being a part of a movement where you're creating impact to the business, at the same time, you're very aware of that cultural impact internally within the organization, and then also to that end consumer, to the customers. So, very, very
Right.
vital.
Yeah.
Let's get a bit more
Yeah.
deeper into organizational culture. How would you say that organizational for an organization to be able to focus on culture, right? How are they going to be able to do that in order to deliver a successful tech transformation?
Okay, okay, interesting. I'll give an example to that because I talked about risk adverse
Hmm.
and then fail fast and being a lot more
Agile,
nimble and
yeah.
going forward. So
Hmm.
in my consulting, yeah, in my consulting business, I deal with a lot of CIOs and chief security officers, people that are in the cybersecurity area. And traditionally, they've been told you're a cost center, cut cost every year. No mistakes, right? We don't want any disruptions, and just continue to cut cost every year and man A plus. That's where you need to be. And they did it. They did it very successfully. And then guess what? A couple of years ago, companies started getting hacked. And big companies, big brands, all of a sudden, Marriott, look at Marriott, Excellus, some of the credit companies got hacked.
Yeah.
Talk about an impact to a brand. Like, are you kidding? My personal profile now is now out there in the stratosphere. So those cultures, the culture of IT security, cybersecurity, that was really just stay in your box, work in the data center, cut costs. Now, hey, we need you to have a seat at the table because
Yes.
our
Yes.
organization is, as a digital organization, we didn't realize how important our data was. We didn't realize how important the cybersecurity was. Those people, the CIOs, the CSO, the chief data officer, they need a seat at the table because it's not an overhead. It's a part of the enabling strategy to say, this is where we need to go. And our data needs to be protected and it needs to enable where we're going. So I think, that is a really interesting aspect of what I've seen,
Hmm.
even over the last few years, because if these companies have multiple hacks, wow, talk about an impact to brand. That's really difficult to overcome. And, nothing to do really with what some of these customers thought was their traditional product.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Impact to customer loyalty. I mean, you said it right there. making sure that that IT leadership, that side of security now has a seat at the table, because organizations need to be
Yeah.
digital first, need to be tech forward. Now they say that as a company, if you're not, a tech company, like what are you doing, in the sense of being able to serve the customer the right way. So it's very vital to not see it as it's siloed side of things like how it used to be, but allowing for leadership within IT, leadership within security to have a seat at the table. Absolutely.
Yes, yes,
Absolutely.
very, very, very important. That table is really changing, and from a diversity perspective, from a knowledge perspective, from a analytics mindset
Mhm,
perspective, from a
mhm.
let's understand the data that we have, and how do we make it better, and how do we really mine
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Let's talk a bit about agility, innovation. We've touched on that, but how does
Okay.
let's get deeper so that a business leader listening here knows exactly what they're taking away when it says, "How do I go about driving agile transformation within my
Sure.
organization with culture?" What does that look like?
Okay, okay, great, great question. You've got a lot of great questions. So agility to me is, I'm looking at decision making. I'm thinking about decision making. And if you're a CFO, a CEO, a CMO, a chief marketing officer, again, I do a lot of consulting in this area, helping customers look at their information and transform. If you don't have the information at your fingertips in real time that you
Mm,
can manipulate and you can drill down on to allow you to make instantaneous real time decisions that are effective, that are accurate, in order to change on a dime, then really take a look at your ability to be agile. So if you're still in a mindset of, okay, well, when the weekly report comes out on Monday and we can look at our sales figures on Monday,
yeah,
you're operating out of the the rear view mirror. You're not operating based on looking
Whew.
ahead in the future.
Yeah,
So if you can't, drill down on, hey, I've got a pie chart. I mean, the CMO is a little different than the CFO or the COO or the CDO. Got a pie chart. I've got a bar chart. Let me drill down. I want to see what happened in St. Louis, what happened in San Francisco. That business intelligence, um, that should be at your fingertips, and you should be able to very easily manipulate that and get the information you need to make rapid, accurate decisions. So I think that's probably the most important thing is to, again, information is power, but if it's not there
mhm.
to help you do what you need and answer the questions you need, I can't tell you how many CFOs and CEOs have told me, I asked for basic questions about my sales figures, about my quality defects, and I can't get the answers. It takes 3 days for me to get basic answers. That's telltale that they really have not taken some of those most important steps. And oh, by the way, this is not a transformation that's a 6 or 12 or 18-month project. This is forever. So
Yeah.
communicating, this is a transformation forever.
Mhm.
We're going to start in methodical phases and prioritize this. We're going to fund along the way. We're going to pay for the next phase based on the savings from this phase. That's an important message as well, that the executives have to say. This is forever. It's a continuous improvement, and a continuous, relook at the information that's being presented to us in real time. Does that
Mm.
make sense?
Absolutely. And that's actually one of the things I'm excited in having this conversation with you, with your experience, because you've been able to sit down with the leadership. You've heard sort of what their pain points are. And someone on the outside might think, oh, everything looks great or everything's perfect. But the reality of it is, as simple as being able to get the most basic answer on data for their business could literally take days. When you're trying to be agile, when you're trying to be competitive, when you're trying to
Oh,
actually
sometimes
service your
weeks.
customer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
So,
sometimes weeks. I mean, really, and I've
wow.
seen printouts. I've seen like weekly computer printouts still that are like
Oh
this
my.
thick. And
In
who's
modern
reading?
day. Sometimes it blows
Who's
my mind how organizations are even able to sustain themselves with sort of monolithic processes and things like that. And it's just this conversation is just, yeah, it hits a notch for me. Um Betty, what does focusing on organizational culture look like in order to deliver a successful technology transformation?
Okay, okay, yeah. So there's this kind of catchy phrase that I say to my clients, and I read it in one of these reports, but it makes sense. So look at the mood in the middle and the buzz at the bottom. And the mood in the middle is, what's the morale of your middle management team? How are they feeling? Are they a part of it? And what's the buzz at the bottom? What are the people at the bottom saying about you, about the middle management team? What are people saying? How are they working together? What does that look like? Really, really important to get a sense, get a pulse on that. And the collaboration, I don't think I've mentioned that word yet, but it is so, so key to the success of these transformations going
Mm,
forward. And there are a couple of industries that come to mind right away that I've worked with and experienced. And one of them is working with architects and construction businesses. And so it's not uncommon for an architect to design a magnificent building. I mean, looks wonderful on the renderings, and then kind of throw it over the transom, gets out in the field, and the contractors are looking at these designs going, this actually cannot be built. And the problem is the architect has really never built buildings before, or been a foreman or a laborer, so it gets thrown over the transom. And if they were working in a more collaborative fashion, that wouldn't happen. And there's a lot more of that going on right now.
mhm,
And even in my experience with IBM, I can remember when the chip designers were coming up with these incredible designs that were fast and all kinds of new technology, with nanotechnology, throwing it over the transom, and the manufacturing engineers were saying, this can't be built. Like, the engineers don't understand that the tools actually aren't designed, the lithograph tools aren't designed to do this. And so the collaboration of putting these tools together and say, hey, when you succeed, we all succeed, right? Let's all succeed together. Or, hey, this product didn't come out the way it was meant to be. So really emphasizing the collaboration of
mm,
bringing teams together that
mm,
aren't used to working together, don't
mm-mm.
necessarily want to work together all the time, but in order to have that closed loop continuous process,
Right.
um, it's got to be done that way.
Mm.
And it's fun. When these teams then come together and they realize, hey, we've got a lot more in
There's
common than
actually
we
value
realized.
there.
And
Hmm.
there's a lot of value. And the team building is that's what people want to do. They want to work on successful teams, and they want to know that their product is going to succeed at the end. So I think that, again, those are win-win scenarios within your own company, and the
Mm,
collaboration with your customer. If
mhm.
your customers aren't giving you feedback on the next design or the next service that you're going to be providing, your chances of hitting a successful product are pretty slim.
Mm, mm. You see, this is why I'm so excited to have this conversation around digital transformation with leaders like yourself.
Yeah,
We've touched on the value
yeah,
of organizational culture, the value of people, what diversity really means to an organization, and how they can really maximize that, right? We've been able to touch on how they position themselves to be successful when we look at digital transformation. This is very valuable in the business space right now. And it's something that, you know, business owners, business leaders are not gonna just talk about it anymore, because the environment wouldn't even allow it. The disruption that's going on around us, it just, you have to change, or it will change for you. So I'm so excited to
yeah.
get your expertise in really sharing the key areas that business leaders can look at, think on, and be able to implement it into their business. Are there any final words that you want to share as we close out here?
No, I've really enjoyed this conversation, Rosie. I think these were great questions, very
Thank you.
probing questions to get to the gist of what
Pushing
some of the
it.
real challenges
Yeah.
are in the market. So I've thoroughly enjoyed this. If you've got any further questions, or if your audience has any questions, by all means, please reach out to me. Let's keep the dialogue going. Let's
This is
keep working with
important.
customers that really are trying to. There's a lot of help out here in the market to help
Mhm,
customers on this
mhm.
journey.
To
And
be able to
so
do it.
I welcome that opportunity. And I so appreciate working together and being with you today.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. Where would be the best place for a leader looking to connect with you? Where would be the best place for that for you?
Sure. Just reach out to me. The best thing is find me on LinkedIn, Betty Wall. My company is called Tech Edge Consulting,
Yes.
and pretty easy to find. So just reach out to me, send a question, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you. And again, let's keep the dialogue going. These are great, great conversations. And in light of what industries and customers are going through right now,
Yeah.
if it was important 3 months ago, it's way more important today. So
Yeah.
spot on.
This is the mission of the Rozy Effect. So I'm very
Yes,
grateful for your time. Thank you so very much, Betty. And you have a beautiful rest of your day.
my pleasure. You as well, Rosie.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for watching and listening to the Rozy Effect show. If you haven't already, run to the rozyeffect.com. That is TheRozyEffect.com and subscribe to get exclusive insights from visionaries leading the charge in digital transformation in our era of digital disruption. You don't want to miss out. Until next time, I'm your host, Rozy Amponsa. Now the wrap.